This is John Hackleman, the Pitmaster, and you're watching Submissions 101.
Okay, John, it's an honor to have you here, and I want to thank you for sitting down with us at Submissions 101. I know you're a busy guy.
No problem. I love your stuff, by the way.
How did you come across our stuff, anyway?
I started doing it. If you go to my YouTube, you see I did this crazy interviews with people.
Yeah.
Like I got one all the way from Dana White to Vandalay to Jardine, and I just get everyone interviews, and then I video my my classes sometimes, just crazy stuff. And then what we do, we're doing curriculum. We have a traditional martial arts school, but I started in '85, and it's always had MMA. It wasn't called MMA then. It was just back then. I just called it Anything Goes. But it always had the same kind of curriculum where it wasn't just punches. There's always everything combined. So I've always been looking at different ways to get stuff, and a lot of my stuff is because we're mainly stand up. But, a lot of my stuff in the early days was guys would come in to spar, and when I say they say, what are your rules? I said, there's no rules, just spar.
Right.
And as soon as you punch someone in the face, especially if he's a wrestler, football player, bouncer, first thing they try to do is take you down.
Right.
So we started working a lot on striking and takedown defense, and get up off the bottom, because that's our main concern. So when I'm doing my regular classes, I always look for just different ways. There's only so many ways to teach. To me, there's 5 basic mount escapes, and I'm always looking for new ways to teach escapes, and sometimes to a lesser degree submissions from the bottom.
Right.
I'm not really that concerned with the top. Once I get on the top, I'd rather just stand up and start punching again. But on the bottom, we have a priority list on the bottom, because we're not jiu-jitsu where anything goes. So my priority list is protect number 1, escape number 2, sweep or reverse number 3, and then attack, which could be elbows or submissions number 4.
Okay.
So I'm always just looking at new ways to attack or submit or attack or escape or sweep from the bottom. I forgot what I was looking for. I was looking for something the other day, and I just came across yours, and I really like your on the YouTube. Now that there's YouTube, that's really good. But like I said, in the early days of the UFC, I just get guys like the Gracie guys want to learn how to throw a left hook. So instead of charging them, I just say, okay, teach me a better, mount escape or omoplata on the bottom.
Right.
And then we trade that way, or like Matt Lindland or those guys, teach me a better clinch or teach me a better, single or double or sprawl. So I always been trading guys, for years on, striking for submission stuff or grappling stuff. Good. So, we built up a lot of curriculum that way, and then now with YouTube, I get a lot of good stuff off that, either fights or just basic stuff. And I think I was looking for some mount escape. I forget. I came across yours. I liked it.
You were describing, what your style's like. I mean, that's the Hawaiian Kenpo, right?
Yeah. Well, I actually came up with it. I coined that term in '85 because I was looking for my style. It's called Kaji Kenpo, which is actually a martial art that was formed in 1947 in Honolulu, Hawaii, which is actually karate, judo, jiu-jitsu, Kenpo, and boxing. It's called Kaji Kenpo. And it's from the streets of Hawaii. 5 guys got together, put that system together, and I'm from Hawaii, and that's what I got my black belt in. So when I got out of the Army in the early 80s, I started teaching out of my backyard, and I just didn't know what else to call it because it wasn't really Kaji Kenpo anymore because I've had so many fights. So I just changed it around a little bit and called it Hawaiian Kenpo.
Okay, cool. We were just curious, in your opinion, I mean, I'm a martial arts instructor, there's lots of them out there. Why do most people stop training in the martial arts after about 2 years? What's the big obstacle that stops them training, do you think?
Okay, well, number 1 is plateau.
Yep.
A lot of people just plateau and get bored with it. And lots of people get because it's either too easy or too hard. So they didn't take the next step to go to the harder stuff, more more intense and more challenging, or they're just have an easier style and they just feel like they learned it all, so they're bored.
Gotcha.
Yeah, my system, we have 100% retention. When people join my school, nobody ever quits. We've had students as long as 85 when I first started. Every student we get stays there until they die, basically. They never leave. Actually, I'm joking. If that was true, I'd be rich right now.
No kidding. So do you train all your fighters like Chuck, or do they all have like individual training programs?
Unlike some trainers, most aren't like that, but I don't. I try to make everybody as good as they can be at their style, their strengths, and like my fighter Antonio Banuelos, he's a different fighter, so I train him the same. I focus on different things. Then I got Scott Lighty, who's much more stand up than even Chuck, and then I got Glover Teixeira, obviously you know who that is.
Yeah.
He's UFC bound. He's the one that knocked out Sujuku, that African guy in UFC. So everybody I even have guys that come to me with more wrestling base, and I just try to teach them as much striking as, to get the guy down.
Right.
But like Glover, he just all of a sudden, I was trying to teach him better ways to get the takedown because he's a black belt jiu-jitsu guy. But now he'd always rather stand and knock people out. His last 4 or 5 fights all ended first-round knockouts from either a right hook or a left hook.
Right.
So, but I don't try to push a grappler to be a striker or other way around. And MMA is so much better and so different than any other combat sport where people can just, some guys like St. Pierre, he doesn't even have a strength, or actually he doesn't have a weakness. He's better than anyone on their feet, on their back, on their front, takedowns, takedown defense. I mean, he's one of the, like a cyborg hybrid fighter that's, he doesn't have a weakness at all, or a strength basically, because his strengths are all.
Yeah. Would you consider that Anderson is like that as well?
Yeah, but I think Anderson favors standing more, and I think Anderson, if it was just one, Anderson is better standing. I think, but I don't think he's quite as, even though he's obviously black belt jiu-jitsu and great at takedowns and defending the takedown. I think he's better at striking than the others, and he prefers to stand more. And I don't think he's quite as good at takedowns as St. Pierre.
In the early years when you guys were training, did you ever have any dojo stormings where other guys from other arts would come in and try to test your Hawaiian Kenpo?
In the old days, that's how I met Chuck. Chuck actually was training at a different karate dojo, and we met by actually somebody set up a fight between the two of us.
Oh.
that was back in like 92 or 93.
Oh, wow.
And we were from neighboring towns, local, the local tough guys. I had a school, and he trained in a karate school, and his instructor set up, because his instructor, didn't like my system or my style or whatever, so he set up, Chuck was obviously his toughest guy. All he knew how to do was throw a straight right, basically, but, he could pick everyone out with it. So he set Chuck up with me for a fight and called me, basically just telling me he thought my style was full of shit and he could kick my ass and da-da-da-da. So we set it up for Friday, and he threw Chuck in with me instead of him.
Wow. So
Chuck's been training with me from basically that day forward, back in 93, I think it was.
Nice.